And good morning and welcome. This is Boles.tv. I'm David Boles, B-O-L-E-S, period, T and a V. Well, as you can see, we have a little bit of a change here with the microphone, angled down, listening to the podcast and listening to the video on demand of this wonderful, wonderful live stream. I realized I'm a little bit off mic, where the mic was pointing, this way and that way. And then I was talking at it this way. Well, these microphones are very sensitive. They like to be spoken directly into, which is what I'm trying to do today. And I think it looks a little bit better. You don't have this big arm hanging here like this. Nobody wants an arm hanging there like that. So this is maybe a little bit better. We'll see. We'll see if the sound sounds better in the re-recording. And also when the microphone was pointing instead of this way, that way, you could hear the vacuum cleaner. You could hear the street. You could hear the heat turning on. Oh, it was a big mess. But now I think we're maybe just a little bit better off by doing it the right way. Well, I hope you had a good yesterday. Today's here and ready to go. And as you might be able to see behind me, we have some lovely balloons. Hello, balloons. It's a love gift. A pre-birthday gift from the talented and always delightful Jana Marie Sweeney. Now, yesterday we talked about pre-glaucoma, pre-diabetes, pre-pregnant, pre-death, pre-birthday gift. And they're wonderful. I go to the end of the world for a balloon. I love a good balloon. And to prove that to you, I'm going to show you a little story here that just goes directly to what happens with these wonderful balloons that I get from my delightful and talented Jana Marie sweetheart. Well, I'll tell you the story first. Many, many years ago, 10 years ago, I think, we'll find out exactly, Jana purchased for me 12 balloons. And they were big, heart-shaped balloons. Those are fine, but they're smaller, according to the Jana Marie. And she had 12 balloons with her on the train, on the path. And one guy came up to her. This was around Valentine's Day. Valentine's Day it was. And one guy came up to her and said, "How much for the balloons?" She said, "I'm not selling balloons. They're not for sale." And he said, "Well, I just want one. I don't want all of them. How much are they?" And she tried to explain, communicating, deaf and hearing, the balloons are not for sale. And I think the guy took out of his wallet $5 or something, tried to give her $5. And she said, "If you want a balloon, I'll give you a balloon." And she didn't take his money, and she gave him a balloon. And then came home and told me the story and said, "You don't have 12 balloons today, you have 11 balloons." And that was a wonderful story. Now here's where it gets interesting. 10 years ago, whenever that was, balloons, it's 9 o'clock, we know what time it is. Hot box time. Hello, neighbor. 10 years ago, one balloon was 99 cents. So you could get 12 for a very good price. These balloons that were delivered by my beauty last night, $3.50 each. Now that's inflation. And I know there's a balloon joke in there somewhere, but that's balloon inflation. And here's the story I wrote in 2006. So how many years ago is that? 10, 16, 20, 10, 11, 12, 16 years ago? Is that possible? Am I doing my math right? I'll put the link in chat if you want to look at it later. And there's the wonderful story about someone trying to purchase her balloons on the train. Balloons that were not for sale. So speaking of balloons, I have one of these. Do you know what this is? I've had it for 5 years, 4 years. It's the most amazing thing. When you need a match or a lighter and you don't smoke, you have to go searching for things. And I got tired of looking for a lighter that didn't light. The stuff had worn out. You have to refill it. I have a lighter collection, by the way, and it can be very messy. Zippo lighter collection, and you have to put in lighter fluid and wicks and wadding and cotton. But this is not that. This is a plasma lighter. And you charge it right there. You plug it into your computer, and it flashes a blue light, and when blue light's done flashing, it's ready. And this is the beauty of a plasma lighter. See that, how it turns on like that? It looks blue on screen, but it's purple in person. And the thing is that it lights things. It's fire, very dangerous, but not a flame. So if you take your finger off the button, that's how you turn it on and off, with your finger, thumb. It won't set the house on fire. And when you have a cat or an animal and you worry about flames, a plasma lighter is an interesting way to go. And it's supposed to be sort of windproof, so I'm going to turn this on and then blow out my candle, but it's not a candle. You can hear it trying to go out, but it's not going out. And there's no smell, just the arc. And you're thinking, well, maybe that's a Star Wars toy. Who said that's real? I've never heard of a plasma lighter before that you plug into your computer and it lasts for 5 years. And there's no cotton wadding, and there's no wick. No John Wick. And there's no fluid. I don't believe that it's a lighter. Q-tip. Plasma lighter. You know what we're going to do. I'm going to set the Q-tip on fire. And I have my Jana Marie, delightful, here with me for safety, filled with delicious drinking water. So if there's an emergency, the Q-tip will go right into the water, ruining my delightful taste. Now, I am slightly worried that there is a helium balloon behind me, 3 of them, which I think makes some kind of hydrogen bomb, if I'm remembering it correctly from high school. Or I'm just maybe totally insane, as Hikaru Nakamura often says. So here's the lighter. There's the flame. I'm touching. Okay. This is off. This is on. So we have flames. Plasma lighter's off. Q-tip is on fire. Now, if this sets off my fire alarm, we're going to have a real fun time. Get ready to evacuate the building. It's still sort of going. Where's the smoke detector's right up there. But I think it's out. I'll hold it in my hand, just to make sure that it's totally out. Okay, it's out. So there you go. Plasma lighter. Look for them. They're on the internet. Can't beat a plasma lighter for convenience. And I hadn't used this for maybe a year and a half. And I found it last night. I flipped it open, and I turned it on and went, this flame. Plasma flame. And I put it in my computer and charged it right up. Last another year and a half. Won't have to think about it. So here's some more interesting news from the day. This popped up right before we went on the air. Boles.tv live every day 9 a.m. Eastern. Jana Marie has her own show, Saturdays and Sundays at 11 a.m. Eastern, where she talks about American Sign Language and disability and many other wonderful things about language and understanding and equality. So this is Ohio. Why, oh why, Ohio? And they had a big snowstorm, and this is the interstate highway, as I understand it. And that is a snowplow going in the opposite direction with a concrete median between the lanes of traffic. And the snowplow, as you can see, is deliberately, because you can't do this by mistake, is deliberately plowing the ice and snow and muck from one lane of traffic into the other lane of oncoming traffic. And this trucker had his video camera on, thank goodness, recording it. And I've learned if you ever have a car, you gotta have those video cams, because boy, they save you time and again from these people who lie and who are awful people. And by the way, if you need a match, you can either break off the end of a Q-tip, like this, and light it on fire, or you can light the cotton end, and that will become a match to light things. But just be very careful, because sometimes it smokes a little bit too much. Have water nearby. This kind of water, right here. Jana Marie water. Delicious. So this little thing with the snowplow caused a 40-car pileup, and 12 people were injured. And here's the video. Watching it happen. I'll turn on the sound. We missed it because here, we'll start it again.
Why? It tells me I'm not on black ice. How the hell does that work? I said, if they're spraying water, you know it ain't ice.
It's really just shocking. And you know it was done on purpose.
Why?
Why? Why?
It tells me I'm not on black ice. How the hell does that work?
The snowplow driver has been
I said, if
suspended.
they're spraying water, you know it
pending
ain't ice.
investigation. Absolutely frightening. And he's in a big truck. Imagine if you're in those little cars and you get smacked like that by hard ice being flung at you from the other side of the road.
Why?
It's just unbelievable.
It tells me I'm not on black ice. How the hell does that work? I said, if they're spraying water, you know it ain't ice.
Oh, gosh. Close
Why?
the curtain.
It tells me I'm not on black ice.
So, that's how people behave when they're not supposed to behave like that. But they do it because they think that's funny, I guess. Why else would you do that? I mean, you know something terrible is going to happen. People going at high speed in the opposite direction from which you're plowing. It's just ridiculous. Also in the news this morning is actor Peter Dinklage. Wonderful actor. Little person. Very upset by Disney remaking Snow White. Peter Dinklage said, okay, so you are recasting Snow White as a Latina woman, the same woman who is in the big flop remake of West Side Story, her. You're not changing the name to snow tan, as some people are kidding online. But what are you going to do with the 7 dwarves? We don't call people dwarves anymore. One of the dwarves is named Dopey. We don't make fun of people like that anymore. So Disney, who never passed up a dollar, and why do they have to remake Snow White? Why do they have to remake all of their shows? If it's a live action, they make it into a cartoon. If it starts as a cartoon, they make it into a live action. It's just so cynical. Some movies are made of a certain time and age, and they should stay there as a lesson to people today, where you can watch the original Snow White and say, well, dwarves, Dopey, and make it a teaching moment instead of a push for money. So responding to Peter, Disney said it's consulting with members of the dwarfism community on their remake of Snow White, adding, to avoid reinforcing stereotypes. From the original animated film, we're taking a different approach with these 7 characters. We look forward to sharing more as the film heads into production after a lengthy development period. And Peter Dinklage said there's a lot of hypocrisy going on. That's all I've got to say. No offense to anything, but if I was a little taken aback by the fact that they were very proud to cast a Latino actress as Snow White, but you're still telling the story of Snow White and the 7 Dwarfs. And CNN was reporting that Disney has now clarified their statement, saying, we're not calling them dwarves. We're calling them magical creatures. Magical creatures from the Black Lagoon. And you're going to have to rename Dopey. So what are you going to call him? Dummy? Ding Dong? Because he's not a bright character. You're going to just completely change him? Then is it still the 7 Dwarves? Is it still the same story? And then it makes you wonder about the Willy Wonka remake. Why? 3rd time they're making that movie. With Timothée Chalamet as Willy Wonka. Are we going to have Oompa Loompas that are little people? Colored orange? Who come in to save the day? I don't know. Will they be remaking The Wizard of Oz? What are they going to do with the Munchkins? Sometimes you just leave things alone. This happened, that happened, we've learned from it. Good movie, interesting story, but we don't really talk to that much today. Not that important to discuss it. And there are Disney properties. Brer Rabbit. I don't think they're remaking that one. I think they're trying to hide that one as much as they can. Did a podcast on that on Human Meme, by the way. humanmeme.com. Well, if you're a live streamer, and if you're of a certain age, this is a big fat kick in the face. Which Twitch streamers earn the most per hour? This is not per week or per month. This is per hour. $870 an hour. $1,100 an hour. $2,000 an hour. $2,400 an hour. Where are they getting all this money? Well, people cheer with bits. People subscribe. They run advertising. They get a cut of it. Somebody said that one of the people making $2,000 is 19 years old. 19 years old making $2,000 an hour. XQC making $1,000 an hour. And a lot of these guys stream for 8-9 hours a day. So they're taking home what, 10 grand a day for work? $10,000 times 365 is $30 million. Or something like that. Here's another funny outrage. This one's political. Love this cartoon today. Joe Manchin and Kirsten Sinema. Two Americans who won't need one of Biden's 400 million free face masks. Which side are you on? Are you a donkey or are you an elephant? That made me laugh. Now that's a good way to make a political statement without being outrageous, but just being observational. And then drawing it and making it into an interesting commentary. It's the way to go. And speaking of masks, really great news. The CDC is saying that if you are immunocompromised, you can get a fourth Pfizer shot. So you are boosting your booster. Some people say there's mRNA fatigue. Some pharmacists are saying, even though the CDC approved it, some pharmacists are saying we're not giving you a fourth shot. Please go away. So that's an interesting conflict. That if you want a fourth shot and it's approved, and a pharmacist can still say no. It's very interesting. But there's other news that Pfizer is enrolling healthy adults right now testing a reformatted COVID-19 vaccine that matches the hugely contagious Omicron variant to see how it compares with the original shots. Pfizer and its partner BioNTech announced the study on Tuesday. Yay, that's good news. COVID-19 vaccine makers have been updating their shots to better match Omicron in case global health authorities decide the change is needed. Omicron is more likely than previous variants to cause infection, even in people who've been vaccinated, but it's not yet clear that a change to the vaccine recipe will be ordered. Among the issue regulators are weighing, some of the first places to face an Omicron surge already are seeing the mutant wave. And there's no way to know if the next variant that arises will resemble Omicron or be totally different. Original vaccines still offer good protection against severe illness and death. Studies in the US and elsewhere have made clear that adding a booster dose strengthens that protection and improves the chances of avoiding an even milder infection. And what I'm hearing on the street is that they're hoping to have this Omicron version of the vaccine ready by March to put in your arm. So I would prefer to wait for that possibility than try to get a fourth booster. As I've said, I love vaccines. I would like to have a shot every day of something if I could. Legal. Nothing illegal. Nothing from the street. So maybe March we'll have a Omicron booster, which I think would be very, very interesting. And on that note, it's time to boost our blood pressure as we take a very brief break. Back in a moment. back from break. I'm David Boles. Thank you for being here. This is Boles TV, BOLES dot T and a V. Why are you spelling it out? Well, we have closed captions now, and Boles.tv comes across as Boles with a W, and there's no W in the Boles. You can see our beautiful and lovely helium heart balloons, courtesy of the lovely Jan Marie. Thank you so much. Pre-birthday gift. An expression of love and devotion like no other. And now we're going to get into some other interesting news that has to do with work and also streaming. Look out! Here we go, it's a research alert! In recent years, we have established our sedentary lifestyles, that means sitting around doing nothing, negatively impact our cardiovascular health, our heart health. However, the dose-response relationship between sitting, like I'm doing right now, and cardiovascular health remains unclear. In this new study, researchers reviewed and analyzed data from 24 studies to determine the dose-response relationship between sitting and vascular function. Lower limb vascular function was impaired after just 2 hours of uninterrupted sitting. Now that's scary. You're sitting watching a movie, better get up and walk around at the 2-hour mark. Airplane, better get up, walk around. Doing a live broadcast, you'd better take a blood pressure break every 30 minutes. In contrast, regularly interrupting sitting, every 30 minutes, may improve vascular function. These findings suggest that recommendations should focus on interrupting sitting with regular activity breaks, spaced at most 2 hours apart. So that's good news. Now, how many kids are going to use that in school saying, oh no, I can't sit here for 2 hours. I've got to get up, move around. I have things to do. I have cardiovascular health to think about. And here's the study. I'll put the link in chat so you can take a look at it. Vascular study on sitting on your heart. Boom. I can go take a look at that, see what's going on. Also in the news, Meta, and we're going to talk about them a little bit more later, but from their own blog, the Facebook people, they have created a new supercomputer. A terrifying monster, a giant monster of a machine that's going to be tracking you and making you live the life that you want or may not want. In the AI metaverse, Facebook says we're introducing the AI Research Supercomputer. You know, they should have it better named. We're introducing your friendly friend. We're introducing the honeybee. But no, the AI Research Supercluster, the RSC, is coming for you, which we believe is among the world's fastest AI supercomputers that will accelerate AI research and help us build for the metaverse. It reads like a horror story. RSC will help us build new and better AI models. Faster, stronger, smarter. Okay, I added that part. Work across hundreds of different languages. Develop new augmented reality tools and more. Oh boy. I don't know if we should jump up and down and be happy, or if we should run screaming from the room. Why do we need this? Well, since 2013, we've been making significant strides in AI, including self-supervised learning. That's self-reporting, right? Where algorithms can learn from vast numbers of unlabeled examples and transformers, which allow AI models to reason more effectively by focusing on certain areas of their input. To fully realize the benefits of advanced AI in various domains, whether vision, speech, language, will require training. Increasingly large and complex models, especially for critical use cases like identifying harmful content. Well, they failed on that previously, if we remember, which we'll be discussing again momentarily. In early 2020, we decided the best way to accelerate progress was to design a new computing infrastructure, RSC. I have to click on this self-supervised learning link, because that's funny. The dark matter of intelligence. Oh, that sounds sort of scary. I've not read this. Oh, here we're talking about ourselves as babies in the metaverse. As babies, we learn how the world works, largely by observation. We form generalized predictive models about objects in the world by learning concepts, such as object permanence and gravity. Later in life, we observe the world, act upon it, observe again, and build hypotheses to explain how our actions change our environment by trial and error. Well, how do I get machines to do this? To act like human beings. We believe that self-supervised learning is one of the most promising ways to build such background knowledge and approximate a form of common sense in AI systems. Whew. So they want us to be curious just like us. And nothing bad would happen with that, right? Machines will always obey. Machines won't do what we don't want them to do, right? I mean, your car doesn't start in the morning. It's not like it doesn't like you, right? It's just because it's incapable of liking you. Self-supervised learning has a particularly profound impact on blah, blah, blah. These models are pre-trained in a self-supervised phase and then fine-tuned for a particular task, such as classifying the topic of a text. In the self-supervised pre-training phase, the system is shown a short text, typically 1,000 words, in which some of the words have been masked or replaced. The system is trained to predict the words that were masked or replaced. And in doing so, the systems learn to represent the meaning of the text so that it can do a good job at filling in the correct words or those that make sense in the context. Ooh. So let's say one of these computers catches you in the metaverse misbehaving. Fill in the blank. You were rude. You were disgusting. You were a criminal. You were to be hanged in the public square. Choose one, AI, and tell us our fate. Well, all these machinations make me hungry. And this arrived in my inbox moments before the broadcast today, which is seen live every weekday at 9 a.m. Eastern, right here on Boles.tv. There's a thing called Steambox, which is a self-heating lunchbox. And I guess you charge it up, you somehow put water in it, and it will make you 3 meals. So it'll last, I guess, for 3 lunches to heat you up. Eating warm, healthy, and fresh meals has become more important than ever, but it's hard to find the time. Following a highly successful launch of Steambox at CES 2022 in Las Vegas, consumers will have a better alternative available. They are now at just a touch of a button or a swipe on their phone away from a delicious, nutritious meal, heated up in 15 minutes. Well, that was not a fire hazard. I don't know how it heats up. I don't know why it heats up. I don't know where the water comes from. I don't know where the steam goes. But they say it's better than a microwave. Now, if you are a self-employed person, this is going to depress you. And I didn't even know this change had taken place. And I pay attention to stuff like this because I have to. Because of the work I do, consulting for Boles books and writing books and teaching and fixing scripts. If you work for yourself, and people pay you for the work you do, and you are a self-employed entrepreneur, look out. The IRS is watching you. And they're coming for you. They're coming to take you away. And it used to be if you had people working for you, and if they earned $600 or fewer than $600, you didn't have to send them a 1099. But if they worked for you for more than $600, you had to send them a 1099. And nobody ever wanted to be 1099'd. They just want that money to not be reported. So that was the threshold, $600. Well, there's a new threshold in town. And the sheriff's name is $600. Since the beginning of the new year, Venmo, PayPal, Square, all of them, and other so-called peer-to-peer payment platforms are required to report income to the IRS if a user, a seller, maybe just sell stuff on eBay, PayPal, sell stuff to your friends. Hey, Venmo me for the work I did for you. I'll clean your house, Venmo me. Look out! If a user accumulates at least $600 in business transactions a year, $600 is nothing, because it used to be this. Previously, the reporting threshold requirement kicked in if someone, a self-employed business person, using these online peer-to-peer payment systems, received more than $20,000 and at least 200 business transactions a year. So for the vast majority of self-employed hobbyists, writers, authors, workers, cleaners, cleansers, the $20,000 reporting limit was very nice. Even though you're supposed to report everything, many people I know, and many people you know, didn't. Because why would they if they're under the threshold of $20,000 and 200 business transactions annually? Well, my friend, our friends in Congress changed this rule in the American Rescue Plan Act of 2021. They snuck it in. They snuck it into a COVID-19 relief bill that was passed last March. Prior to tax season, affected platform users will receive a 1099-K form, which includes the total dollar value reportable transactions per the IRS. The new rule is explicitly intended for commercial transactions. Yeah, right. This doesn't include things like paying your family or friends back using PayPal or Venmo for dinner, gifts, or cherry tips, PayPal said in a November statement about the change. And this isn't PayPal's fault or problem. This is the IRS. This is Congress backstabbing entrepreneurs trying to make hay at night and during the day. The sites have attempted to make business/personal transactions distinctions clear, which is true. In July 2020, Venmo piloted business profiles, which had more transparency and a transaction fee, according to TechCrunch. PayPal has had a business option of since at least 2013, which is true too. Cash App, another popular platform, has a business profile known as Cash App for Business. So that means users like you and me can self-identify what is a commercial transaction or not via the business profile. And I'm telling you that won't work. You cannot have someone pay you on your personal account for work you're doing or work you performed and not pay you via your business account. It's not going to work. You'll be found out. But that's what people are going to try to do to get around this, because it's very punishing for the small business consumer. Big business can walk away, right, whatever they want to do. They don't have to pay their bills. Small businesses now used to have to report $20,000 income. Now they have to report anything over $600. And you're going to get taxed on it. It's bad news. And the GOP thought it was ridiculous and didn't like it. That's a good thing. That's sort of inspiring to me. I like that idea. So beware. And I guess you're not really going to start getting these 1099Ks until the 22-23 tax season, but beware of it now because they're sort of watching you. If you're a business, don't bounce between business and personal profiles because it's going to get caught up and find you. Because most of the time, people paying you on your business profile are not necessarily people. There are other people, business people like you, so they're going to see that transaction. Why is this business paying you something on your personal account? It won't work. And now we go back to our friends, Meta. Now remember, Meta had a big problem a while back in one of their beta tests, where a woman went in testing the metaverse and was sexually groped. Her avatar was sexually groped, and she complained about it. And the Meta people blamed it on her, that she didn't enable the sexual body protection switch. She didn't turn it on. Because by default, people are allowed to touch each other in the metaverse. So, yeah, victim blaming in the real world. Oh, that skirt is very short. Your blouse is a little too revealing. That's why bad things happen. See, victim blaming. Oh, you dressed the wrong way. That's why you got sexually assaulted or abused. Well, same thing in the metaverse. Well, if she'd only turned on the switch to protect her from these gropers in the metaverse, she wouldn't have had this problem. So it's her fault, not our fault. She should know better. Ugh. So now there's a thing called the Oasis Consortium, launched last August. It's a think tank bringing together experts on gaming, social media, and online dating to foster the development of, believe it or not, an ethical internet. It recently promulgated the first ever operating principles, user safety standards for the brave new world of Web 3.0. The metaverse needs the Oasis user safety standards. We identified common pitfalls, distilled best practices across the industries, and created a safety blueprint for Web 3.0. The metaverse, an immersive, interoperable, persistent, fantasied universe, has both incredible promise and danger. It increases our exposure and accelerates the velocity of toxicity. For it to survive and thrive, we must put down safety guardrails from the get-go, not after the fact. Oh, you turn on the switch to protect you. David Reed, professor of AI and spatial computing at Liverpool Hope University, says this: the metaverse's ultimate aim is not just virtual reality or augmented reality. It's mixed reality, MR. It's blending the digital and the real world together. Ultimately, this blend may be so good and so pervasive that the virtual and the real become indistinguishable. And that's the point of it all, right? They don't want you to know if you're alive in the metaverse or dead in the real world. They don't care. As long as you're in the metaverse, you're alive. And that's how they'll sell it to you, eternal life. And the market for that is gigantic. Whoever controls it will basically have control over your entire reality. Many current MR prototype systems have face, eye, body, and hand tracking tech. Most have sophisticated cameras. Even some incorporate EEG technology to pick up brainwave patterns while you're in this metaverse. In other words, everything you say, manipulate, look at, or even think about can be monitored in mixed reality. The data this will generate will be vast and extremely valuable. That's why we need a system in place to police it. No single company should ever exert control over mixed reality. It's simply too important for that to happen. Professor Reed continues. He believes the answer is collaboration. Using open standard protocols where a standard is freely available to be adopted and shared by others, in the same way that the World Wide Web evolved. The Internet has the World Wide Web Consortium, the formation of which was heavily influenced by the father of the web and his quest for openness. Professor Reed says the metaverse is crying in need of the creation of an equivalent body for the age of Web 3.0. According to the professor, that could be something like an Interpol for the metaverse, an international police force, or a compliance committee, or bureaucracy that will have to exist. I think that's going to have to happen. And I agree. Who's going to be the sheriff? Who's going to be the law enforcement? Who's going to be the muscle in the metaverse? Or in any mixed reality situation? Well, it can't be one man, but right now it is. It's Mark Zuckerberg. He decides if you live or die in the metaverse. He decides if you're worthy or not. He decides if you violated any kind of protocol, and if you will be punished or banned or hanged in the public square. We need decentralization. We need the Bitcoining of the metaverse, where everyone is their own king and their own ruler, but doesn't make their own rules. And now we're going to take a very brief break, a blood pressure break. Stretch our legs, get our heart going right, and get all the blood out of pooling in our toes. Back in a moment. And hello again, we are back from break. I'm David Boles, here on Boles.tv. B-O-L-E-S dot, period, T and a V. Here with you every weekday, so far, 9 a.m. Eastern, as we try to make sense of the world and bring definition to the human condition. On Friday, around 10:15, Jana Marie will be here to give you a lesson in American Sign Language, Hardcore ASL. Lesson in American Sign Language where she discusses emotions. Happy, sad, angry, nervous, pensive. And then on Saturdays and Sundays, the great Jana Marie is here at 11 a.m. Eastern to again talk to you about hardcore ASL and disability and rights and helping people find jobs. And she discusses topics from all over the world. It's a lot of fun. Well, we loved the movie, the 7-hour movie. What was it? Get Back? Yeah, the documentary of the Beatles making their final album together. And we were dismayed by how John Lennon treated his son, Julian. This is a matter of record. Told his son, "You were born of a whiskey bottle, and my son with Yoko was born of love." Now that hurts. Maybe it's true, but you don't have to say it out loud, just to get a reaction. So Julian wanted some of his father's things, and Yoko said, "Well, you can have them, but you have to go buy them at the auction house." So I think he got a few things, but she did make him buy things. She wouldn't just give it to him. So Julian did, and then became one of the biggest collectors of Beatles memorabilia in the world. Along with, guess who? Paul McCartney. So it's Paul and Julian sort of working together, not really against each other, but together they're trying to collect with their money that they have all of these Beatles things to preserve them and protect them and to keep them whole. And I think that Paul wanted to do that with the music catalog too. The Beatles don't own their music anymore. They get paid royalties, but they don't own the songs. Sony now owns the songs because Michael Jackson bought the rights to all the Beatles music, then took out a loan for half of that money, $250 million, I think, from Sony for the Beatles collection. And if Michael didn't pay that money back, as I understand it, then the entirety of the catalog, the Beatles catalog, reverted to Sony, which I guess would make it worth $500 million. So Julian, wanting to take advantage of the NFT train, is sort of disappointingly on the NFT train. Julian Lennon appears eager to see how just overheated the rock, memorabilia, and NFT markets really are, with a new auction of Beatles and John Lennon memorabilia from his personal collection that has been minted as non-fungible tokens, NFTs. The Lennon collection, the NFT collection sale, will take place online on February 7 via Julian's Auctions and NFT partner Yellowheart. The sale includes such items as the black cape John Lennon wore in Help, and Paul McCartney's handwritten notes for Hey Jude, originally titled Hey Jules. McCartney wrote the song for Julian Lennon when John and his wife Cynthia divorced. Potential bidders should keep in mind, though, that the items up for sale are only those one-of-one blockchain tokens. The actual coat, McCartney's actual notes, and all the other actual real-life, holdable, fungible items are not for sale and shall remain in Julian Lennon's possession. So see, that's why this whole NFT thing's ridiculous. You don't own anything. You don't own the rights. You don't buy the actual coat. You're buying an image of the coat. As we talked about yesterday, it's not like it's like you're going to a museum and standing in front of a Van Gogh and having your photograph taken, saying at a certain time in a certain place you were there in that museum standing next to the Van Gogh art. That's what NFTs are, and the blockchain. You are purchasing the right to say at a certain time in a certain moment you had a selfie taken as an NFT with John Lennon's coat. That's all it is. It's like selling farts in a jar. Not like that hasn't already been done. Additionally, the sale includes NFTs of John's Afghan coat from Magical Mystery Tour and NFTs of 3 Gibson guitars John gifted to his son. But not the actual guitars. No. A picture of the guitars. As far as prices, the Hey Jude NFT is expected to fetch the biggest price, an estimate of $50,000. Maybe $70,000. While clothing item NFTs could go for $8,000 to $20,000. Where are people getting money to buy this stuff? I don't get it. The 3 guitar NFTs are estimated to sell for $6,000 to $8,000. A portion of which each sale will be donated to the White Feather Foundation. Blah. That's one thing I find funny when you go to the grocery store. And the grocery store or the pharmacy says, hey, you want to donate $1 to charity? And I always say, no. If you want to donate, why don't you do it? Why are you making me do it through you? If I want to give to charity, I'll do it on my own in my own name. I'm not going to give it to you. So what will several $1,000s get you in this sale? The NFTs were minted with images of the physical items, as well as an accompanying audio clip in which Julian shares a personal memory tied to the item. So while you may not get to play John Lennon's guitar, and you cannot wear his cool help cape, the winner will get to share that exclusivity of Lennon history as the sole owner of the NFT image. At least that's what Julian's auctions website says. The whole thing stuns me. I don't understand it. I don't understand why people would spend so much money. As someone said to me the other day, hey, this whole NFT thing and all these hundreds of thousands of dollars that are getting spent on junk like this, it's all money laundering. Where foreign investors buy an NFT for $250,000 with whatever money they have, and then it gets transferred into something that can be sold and resold at higher and higher prices to pay people. You owe somebody $2 million, and they have an NFT that they're selling for $20,000, and you pay them $5 million and you're square. So they've been paid legitimately for this ridiculous NFT thing where you're standing next to an art object and thinking it's special. And to me, that makes more sense, that this is really all about money laundering than about collecting art. It's people with too much money and they don't know what to do with it. They don't know how to get rid of it. They don't know how to get more of it. So they've invented this whole scam called NFTs to get around the law. Now we'll talk a little bit more about artificial intelligence. And this is not just limited to the metaverse. This is about computers trying to think originally like us. And I guess this is sort of a conundrum that's in the artificial intelligence world as people try to figure out what's going on. So here's an example of what computers can and cannot do, and the problem that they're trying to get computers to solve. Two children, Chloe and Alexander, went for a walk. They both saw a dog and a tree. Alexander also saw a cat and pointed it out to Chloe. She went to pet the cat. Oh, Dora's here. Good morning, Dora. I believe the money laundering, no regulation, though. There's no regulation. It's considered artwork. And if this is really just kind of began or is now continuing as a money laundering scheme, a way to transfer wealth from one person to another, it's genius. They used to do it. They are doing it with apartments. You buy a penthouse apartment in New York City, you never live in it, you pay $10 million, and 2 years later you sell it for $150 million, right? That to me is money laundering. Completely free. But it takes time and paperwork and lawyers. NFT, you go on the internet, you take your filthy money, you pay $20,000 to Julian Lennon, he gives you a picture of his dad's guitar, and you resell it to people who owe you money, but they can't figure out how to get you that money legally. Well, here's the John Lennon guitar picture. I'm selling it for $750,000. And if you pay attention to the news, that's what's going on. Little kids who don't know anything about art, don't know anything about NFTs, making $150,000 in half an hour. Well, who do you think's buying that? Not fans, not people who know it. It's people who are looking to turn around and hide money. So, Chloe and Alexander. It is trivial to answer a question like, who went for a walk in that example? I'll reread this because it has to all go together. Two children, Chloe and Alexander, went for a walk. They both saw a dog in a tree. Alexander also saw a cat and pointed it out to Chloe. She went to pet the cat. It is trivial to answer a question like who went for a walk. We know that, Chloe and Alexander, in which the answer is directly spelled out in the text. But any competent reader, not necessarily AI, should be just as easily able to answer questions that are not directly spelled out and addressed. Like, did Chloe see the cat? Now we know she did because we can infer that by the scenario. But a computer learning artificially through intelligence, their intelligence, doesn't have that specifically written out that she saw the cat. Another question is, were the children frightened by the cat? Now we know they're not frightened because she went to pet the cat. They pointed out the cat. So we as human beings know, okay, the context says they're not afraid of the cat, and they saw the cat. A computer cannot infer that from just the facts pointed out in that sentence. So that's the problem that they're trying to solve with artificial intelligence. And there's a new book. MIT researcher Kate Darling, in her New Breed book, says that comparing AI and robots to humans misses the point. It stirs emotions of an inevitable future where robots and humans clash, perhaps fueled mostly by science fiction. She argues that thinking of robots as pets is a far better analogy and provides a better framework for thinking about the problems AI can help solve. Now, right there, I'm disturbed by that. This is an MIT person, written a book, is an authority, wants us to childlike, infantilism, think of robots as our pets and not as our enemies. Right? We talked about that the other day. We saw the dancing robots. You put a gun in their hand and a helmet on their head, and their dance is very, very different. But that's how they get us to accept this technology. Oh, they're dancing. They're having fun. Oh, no, a robot is a pet. A robot's not a threat. It's not a friend. Perhaps a better question would then be if AI can help humans with the task of living religiously active and fulfilling lives. So what role does artificial intelligence and religion play when they play together? When you look behind the headline-grabbing humanoid form of the Minder robot, we see the functionality exhibited is very similar to what we have in our smartphones and home assistants, such as Alexa. When Santo, the Catholic robot, was asked a question about heaven, it responded with a line of scripture that contained the word heaven. It did not answer the question directly. Given the note about the story of Chloe and Alexander, we can see why. In certain situations, this form of word matching and retrieval is extremely useful, and that is where AI technology should focus. Humans should not be left with the complex reasoning and reflection, and technology solutions, which may or may not include AI, should be actively supporting them. This is happening today, yet we may not realize it. The Muslim community recently launched a website, Open Quran. And the website allows a text-based search of the Holy Quran in Arabic, Urdu, and English, but also more advanced features, such as support for synonyms. If you look for the word alcohol or liquor, you will be given a result that contains the term wine. The Review of Religion's website also, for example, has a search functionality that enables information from over 100 years worth of material to be recalled in seconds. So that's another interesting thing, is this fundamental AI, do you want it putting in synonyms for you? Or if you're looking for a specific kind of alcohol, do you want to know about beer in the Quran and not just wine? And now we move into this idea of AI and ethics outside of religion. The conversation about AI and ethics has to be cracked wide open to understand the subtleties and the life cycle of AI systems and their impacts at each stage. Too often, these talks lack a far enough reach and focus slowly on the development and deployment of stages of the life cycle, although many of the problems occur during the earlier stages of conceptualization. Another problem is that companies and stakeholders may focus on the theater of ethics, seeming to promote AI for the good, while ignoring aspects that are more fundamental and problematic. This is known as ethics washing, or creating a superficially reassuring but illusory sense that ethical issues are being addressed to justify pressing forward with systems that end up deepening problematic matters. Oh, don't think about it too much, my darling. A robot is a pet, not a threat. Overstating the capabilities of AI is a well-known problem in AI research and machine learning, and it's led to complacency toward understanding the actual problems they've been designed to solve, as well as identifying potential problems downstream. The belief that incompetent and immature AI systems, once deployed, can be remedied by a human on the loop, or assumption that an antidote exists. Well, if your robot bites you as a pet, I'll be there to stop it from biting you a second time. Especially compatible with cybersecurity is an erroneous and potentially dangerous illusion. I completely agree. And we see this lack of comprehension in AI ethics demonstrated in our decision makers, who fall for a myopic, tech determinist narrative and apply tech solutionists and optimization approaches to global industry and societal changes. They're often blinded by what's on offer rather than focused on what the problem actually requires. Anyone who assumes that AI systems are apolitical by nature would be incorrect, especially when systems are embedded in situations or confronted with tasks they were not created or trained for. Structural inequities are commonplace, like in the predictive algorithms used in policing, that are often clearly biased. What's more, the people who are most vulnerable to negative impacts are often not empowered to engage. That means if you're being surveilled by the police and they're recording you and making decisions about your life, and you happen to be poor, or not the right socioeconomic level, or even the right color, you don't have an avenue to say, I've been misrepresented by that data. You just take it or leave it. Part of the solution and challenge is finding a shared language for reconceptualizing ethics for unfamiliar and implicit tensions and trade-offs. Large-scale technological transformations have always led to deep societal, economic, and political change, and it's always taken time to figure out how to talk about it publicly and establish safe and ethical practices. And that's the challenge. The people who are inventing this AI and these robots don't want to talk about it, about what might happen, about what could happen. Everything's fine. Our robots are dancing. Our robots are pets. We can't infer anything by reading text, but that doesn't matter because we're not going to hurt you anyway. At least we won't until it's too late to stop us. And now one more brief break. Back in a moment. And here we are back from break. I'm David Boles. This is Boles.tv. Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. Eastern, right here, as we try to figure out this human conundrum. The human condition of what makes us move and spin into the world. The balloons you see behind me are a gift from the wonderful Jan Marie, a pre-birthday gift, which we earlier related to our pre-glaucoma and pre-diabetes terminations. Well, suicide is a big problem, and it's depressive to talk about, but if you don't talk about it, then how do you get information about it? So sometimes you have to talk about it just a little bit. And a lot of people die, and some people say it's okay. Your life belongs in your own hands. And so if you choose to squeeze your own neck, who are we to say anything? And it's true, because you can't force people into caring about other people or even about themselves when they're caught in that suicidal cycle. And there is a friend of mine I call her a friend, people would say a person I know, in Germany, who is a doctor. And her whole philosophy is depressed people just kill themselves. It doesn't matter if they're on medication or not. You're just postponing the inevitable. And she's a doctor. But this is the philosophy, I guess, in German doctor society, is that depressive patients are hopeless and useless and therefore are not in need of saving or even assisting. Well, we don't believe that really here in America. We try to help people. We have suicide hotlines. We have therapists, we have counselors, we have drug programs to help people try to get out of their depression. Yesterday we talked about alcoholism and young Native Americans on reservations in grades 7 through 12 who become alcoholic because they lack warmth in their family and they lack direct supervision by a family member. And they said just those two things. Loving your child, correcting their bad behavior, can save them from depression and alcoholism. It seems simple. But not all solutions are so simple. So here's the sad news that between 1999 and 2018, the rate of suicide deaths in the US of A increased 35%. Each year, 47,000 Americans die by suicide. That's about 130 dead people a day. The majority of suicide deaths occur among working-age individuals, and statistics show that the number of suicides enacted at work have reached record highs. So some scientists got together and did some studies and said, well, if people are dismayed by work, or they're killing themselves at work, or if people spend 8 hours of their day in a workspace, maybe we can see signs of depression or suicide, and we can intervene before they take that next step, that final step. Suicide is a complex phenomenon that is influenced by several intersecting life factors, including individual attributes, environmental conditions, and access to lethal means. As a result, identifying employees at risk for dying by suicide is a complicated process. Research has shown that one important piece of the puzzle involves employees' work experiences, including characteristics of the job itself, meaningfulness, autonomy, variety, and social interactions with coworkers. Take, for example, the suicide deaths or attempted deaths of 13 employees at the Chinese manufacturing company Foxconn in response to extreme working conditions, or the suicide deaths of 35 employees at the French-based telecommunication company Orange as a result of managerial bullying. And Foxconn is where all the Apple iPhones are made, and they put a lot of pressure on those kids, those workers, to get the job done. These situations underscore the very real and adverse effects that the workplace can have on employees' psyches and behaviors, which can ultimately result in suicide. So what do you do about it? Managers and HR professionals are important gatekeepers for recognizing individuals who are at risk of suicide and aiding those who need help. In addition to workplace-specific factors, prior research has been identified the following risk factors: health conditions, such as mental illness, alcohol, and substance abuse disorders, as well as major physical illnesses. Negative life events, including unemployment, job loss, and loss of key relationship. A personal history related to suicide, such as a family history of suicide deaths, previous suicide attempts, and a history of trauma or abuse. And finally, access to lethal means, which includes accessibility to means to enact suicide, such as a firearm or other weapons or lethal medications. Managers at work should perform routine check-ins with employees, especially those at risk, to gauge their well-being and to listen to any concerns without passing judgment. I think that's a wonderful idea, but is it implementable? Do managers have the kind of training to know what questions to ask? Because many managers, even HR people, just don't want to hear it. And the big joke in these big companies is, if you have a complaint and you are concerned about getting fired because of your boss, don't go to HR. Because you go to HR and they're on the side of the company, and then you will be fired because they're going to put you on some kind of program that you're not going to be able to meet, and that gives them a reason to get rid of you. I don't know if that's true. I don't work at a big company, but I've heard those stories from people I know. If you have a problem, live with it, suck it up, find a new job, never make a complaint to HR. These conversations, people provide opportunities for managers to inform employees of available resources, as well as to remind the employee that they are supported and cared about in the workplace. Great idea, I just don't know if it's implementable. Although managers are often important gatekeepers who can monitor changes in employee behavior, their primary role is to provide employees with information and resources for help seeking. The managers themselves are not expected to counsel or solve the employee's struggles. Maintaining this boundary is important for protecting the well-being of the manager as well. Unfortunately, organizations may not be able to prevent all suicide deaths, and they need a plan for post-prevention, psychological first aid, crisis intervention, and support offered after a suicide death. Now, this is dealing with the reality. The last thing was, what can you do about it? Have a manager refer them to something. I don't think that would ever be very effective. First and foremost, recovery from a suicide death is a process that should be handled with intention and sensitivity. In the immediate aftermath of suicide, managers' responses fall into the acute stage that requires protecting the privacy of the deceased, communicating quickly and clearly to quell rumors of misinformation, and offering practical assistance to family members. The short-term response involves identifying affected employees and providing them support through EAPs and other resources. Importantly, not all employees will be impacted the same way, and grief can manifest itself differently. In this time frame, it is necessary to be flexible and patient as employees come to terms with the loss, and to allow time and space for employees to grieve, which likely necessitates exchanges in expectations for productivity. So at least someone's trying to deal with the problem. I just don't know if the problem has a solution. And as you age and get older and you start thinking about your death, and you sign medical directives For your friends and family, do not resuscitate. Do not intubate me. I want to die naturally. Do not falsely intervene in the saving of my life. Well, is that a form of suicide? Or is that just dealing with reality? And some people just come to the conclusion that they've lived long enough. They've had enough. I'm done. And can we get mad at them? Disappointed, I guess, sure. But it's their life. I had a good friend in high school who ended his life in a very messy and horrible way. Family never got over it. My friend Marshall Jameson had a very beautiful young son who killed himself in their garage while Marshall and his wife were away at the grocery store. And Marshall never got over that. The death of Marshall Jr. And then I think about these copycat deaths. Several years ago at NYU, in the beautiful Boles Library, where you could look down on this kind of geometric maze in white and black marble all the way up. Look over the balcony, look down. And one day, one kid just went up to the top floor, 8th or 9th floor, and leapt from the balcony onto the marble floor of the main lobby of the Boles Library. I can't imagine having been there, watched it, heard it, seen the blood, and the terror of someone flinging themselves to their death. And then there were copycats. Like 2 or 3 more students did the same thing, flung themselves off the railing and into the lobby of Boles Library. And it was terrible and tragic. And the university didn't know what to do, and the students didn't know what to do. They're saying, what is going on? And it's a thing. Kids get desperate. They look for help. Well, I like that. I like how he went out. I'm going to do the same thing. So NYU was forced to put up these ugly plexiglass barriers all around this balcony on each floor that overlooked the beautiful, beautiful lobby. And sometimes it was a little scary. You'd look over the railing, you'd look down, you'd see the geometric design, and if could make you a little dizzy. So now you can't even look at the design, the beautiful design of the floor, because you have plexiglass in your way. You can't get over it. But the suicide stopped. It worked. So we live in a very complex and confounding world, and we try to get through it the best we can. And for those people, whatever age they may be, who said, I've had enough, I don't know how we can really get too mad at them if they're making a rational choice. And for some people, suicide is rational. And for some people, it's not. Some people, they are not in the right mind to make that kind of determination. But if you're ill, you have a terminal disease, and you've said, it's enough, my bones are hurting, it's time to take a pill. Assisted suicide, it's difficult. Well, we've talked a lot today about AI and ethics and AI and religion and metaverse and Interpol. Had a lot of fun with some balloons back there. Thank you so much, Jana Marie. Talked about money laundering and hiding in NFTs. And that works the opposite way too, you know. You can unlaunder money by just sort of being nice. I'm reminded of a friend of ours who had a beautiful home. And they got divorced, and they owned the house together. And the husband said to the wife, I will sell you my share for $1. And they did. Thank you for the birthday wishes, Dora. It's not today, it's pre-birthday. But maybe tomorrow. I'm not saying. Hands are sealed. So you sell someone your house for $1, and it's legal. And you go to the courts and say, wait a minute, that's not the value of the house. Well, there's the difference between market value. Okay, I think the house is worth $1. And the appraised value that the city's going to charge you in taxes. But they did it. And you go to the deed, the record, and you see the house was sold for $1. It previously sold for $250,000, $350,000, $750,000. 1 year it sold for $1. And you think, what is the world's going on? Well, that's not money laundering. That's sort of doing the right thing. And on that higher note, I thank you so much for being here. I will see you here tomorrow at 9 a.m. January's with you, Friday, 10:15. Hardcore ASL, talking about emotions. Saturday and Sunday, she'll be here at 11. Doing hardcore ASL interventions in linguistics and language and meaning and grammar and syntax and all that good stuff. And talking about the disabled and finding jobs and other international artifacts. Thank you for being here. You can find me, David, at boles.tv via email. Jana is an email, jana@boles.tv. Twitter, David Boles. Facebook, Boles. Instagram, Boles Books. TikTok, Boles TV. Discord, server, David Boles. So until tomorrow, be well, have a joyous day, sleep well, or wake up. But whatever you do, keep creative dreaming and an active imagination alive. See you tomorrow.